Hi there, I'm Mrs. Weiss. Welcome to Latin Storytime. Today, I'm going to be telling you the story of Cinderella. First, let's learn the Latin words you'll hear in our story. Here are two sorores. You can tell by how much they look alike that they are full sorores. They have the same mother and father. But sorores can be girls that belong in the same extended family, like cousins, or become part of the same family through step-parents, like in our story today. Now in this picture, a woman is cooking in culina. In culina, you'll find food, pots, and pans. Maybe in this culina, they are preparing for festum. Festi are any special gatherings where something is being celebrated. Festum can be big dinners or dances. In this picture, we see them celebrating someone's birthday at this festum. Next, here are calcei. You wear calceos on your feet to protect them. And as we'll be reminded in today's story, there are many different sizes and kinds of calceorum. Finally, look at the netting in this picture. It is panosum, full of tears and holes. We call cloths or clothes that are panosa pani. Pani are not in good condition anymore. All right, we're ready for the story of Cinderella. There was once a girl named Ella who was so gentle and beautiful that everyone who knew her loved her, except her stepmother and her sorores. Her own mother had died when she was quite young, and her father had married again. This new wife had two daughters of her own. She dressed her own children in fine clothes, and they sat about and did nothing all day. But Ella worked in culina and had nothing but panos to wear. And because she often sat close to the ashes to warm herself, her sorores called her Cinderella. Now the king and the queen of that country had one son, and they were very anxious for him to marry. They determined to give a great festum and to ask to it all the fairest ladies in the land. They hoped that among them all, the prince might see someone whom he would choose to marry. All the grand people of the city were invited, and Cinderella's stepmother and her sorores were asked with all the rest. Sorores were very much excited over it. All sorts of fine things were bought for sororibus to wear, and the stepmother's dress was no less fine than theirs. Cinderella sighed. I wish I might go to festum too, and see the prince and all the lovely ladies. You, cried sorores laughing. A pretty sight you would be at festum, you with your panis and your sooty hands. Cinderella replied, Oh, my dear sorores, let me go with you, I beg of you. One of your old dresses would do for me to wear. But sorores laughed and jeered. You, the cinder maid, they cried. No, no, culina is the place for you. We would die of shame if any of those fine folks saw you. The night of festi, sorores dressed themselves in all their finery and came into Culinam to show themselves to Cinderella. They hoped to make her envious. They swept up and down the room and spread their gowns and smiled while Cinderella admired them. Finally, they and the stepmother stepped into a fine coach and rolled gaily away to festum. But Cinderella sat in a corner by the fire and wept and wept. Suddenly, as she wept, a shining woman with a wand and buckled calceis appeared in culina, and where she came from no one could have told. Why are you so sad, my child? She asked. And why do you weep so bitterly? Cinderella looked at her with wonder. I am weeping, she said, because my sorores have gone to festum without me, and because I wish to go too. Then dry your tears, said the woman. I am your fairy godmother, and if you are a good girl and do exactly as I say, there is nothing you can wish for that you shall not have. Run to the garden and fetch me a pumpkin, and let me see the mouse and rat traps. Cinderella did as she was told. "Now," said the godmother, "we are ready to begin." She touched the pumpkin with her wand, and at once it turned into a magnificent golden coach. She touched the mice, and they became 6 handsome, sleek gray horses to draw the coach. She touched the rat with her wand, and he was turned into a coachman. "Footman, footman!" cried the godmother impatiently. "Where shall we get them?" Presently, in the crack of the wall, she espied 2 lizards. A touch of her wand, and they were changed to footmen. "And now," said the fairy, "all is ready." "But, godmother, my pony! I could not go to Festum in ponies, no matter how fine my coach," cried Cinderella. "Wait, I have not done yet." The godmother touched Cinderella's panos with her wand, and at once they were changed to a gown of white satin embroidered with pearls. There were diamonds in her hair, and her clumsy calcii were changed for glass calcis that exactly fitted her little feet. Cinderella's heart was filled with joy. "Now you can go to Festum," said the godmother. "But remember this, my fairy charm will only last until 12 o'clock. At 12, these fine clothes will change for ponies. The coach will again become a pumpkin, and all of the animals will return to what they were before. So at 12, you must come home again." Cinderella promised to obey, and then she stepped into the coach and rolled away to Festum. She reached Festum as the music was sounding, and the prince was about to choose a partner for the dance. When Cinderella entered the room, no one had eyes for anyone but her. The prince came to her and took her by the hand. "You shall be my partner in the dance," said he, "for never have I seen anyone as fair as you." The prince begged her to tell him her name and whence she came, but she would not. Again and again they danced together, and Cinderella was so happy she quite forgot to notice how fast the time was going. Suddenly, the castle clock began to strike. Cinderella gave a cry of terror. She snatched her hand from the prince and fled away. Such was her haste that as she ran down the stairs she lost one little glass calceum, but she dared not wait to pick it up. Just as she reached the door, the last stroke of 12 sounded. Immediately her beautiful clothes were changed for ponies, her jewels melted away, and the guard who was on watch saw no one but a little cinder maid run past. Cinderella ran all the way home, and she scarcely had time to take her place beside the fire before her sorores swept into the room. "Was it a beautiful festum?" she asked. "Yes, it was a fine festum indeed," said Sorores, and they began to tell her about it. "And whom did the prince dance with?" asked Cinderella. "Oh, he danced with a strange princess who came in just after festum began. The prince had bowed to us and smiled, and he might have chosen one of us as his partner. But after she came, he had eyes for no one else. She slipped away before festum was over, and no one knew where she went. However, the prince picked up her calceum on the stairs, and he may find her by that." The next day, the prince sent out a proclamation far and wide that he had found a glass calceum, and whoever could wear that calceum should be his bride. Calceus was sent around from one house to another, and every lady was eager to try it on. All hoped to be able to wear it, but it fitted none of them. Some feet were too long and some too broad, some too fat and some too thin. At last, the messenger came to the house where Cinderella and her sorores lived. Sorores could hardly wait to try calceum on. Each was sure she could wear it, and they began to quarrel as to which should try it first. At last it was given to the eldest sorority. She sat down and tried to put her foot into it, but she could not. Then the second soror tried it, but that was even worse. She could not even get her toes into it. The stepmother stood by, begging and urging them to try again, but the messenger shook his head. "No, no," he said, "neither of those two is the right one. But is there no one else in the house who could try it on?" No, there was no one except the little cinder maid, and it was not worth while for her to try it. If Sorores could not wear it, she certainly could not. Nevertheless, the messenger said he must see her. His orders were that everyone in the city should try it on. Very reluctantly, the stepmother sent for Cinderella. She sat down and took calceum from the messenger and put it on, and it fitted exactly. Then she drew the other calceum out from beneath her ponies and put it upon her other foot, and at once the messenger knew she must be the one the prince had been seeking. The stepmother and sorores were ready to burst with rage and envy. They could not believe their eyes and would have sent Cinderella back to clean on with harsh words and blows, but this the messenger would not allow. Cinderella was taken away to the palace and dressed as a princess should be. And when the prince saw her again in all her beauty, he was filled with love and joy. Soon after, they were married. And though sororities were invited to the wedding, they were ashamed to come because their faces were so swollen with weeping. As for the stepmother, she was quite ill with rage and spite. But the prince and Cinderella lived happy together forever after. The end. Thanks for joining me today for Latin Storytime. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye!
Hey parents, I want to help your kids keep learning Latin beyond our story time together. Visit latinstorytime.com/signup for free access to each of my parents' guides, where I give you a list of the new words your child learned today and some tips to help you practice those words naturally in your daily life. And remember to click the YouTube subscribe button so you catch each new episode. Thanks for watching, and I hope your family enjoys your Latin learning together.